You ever hear a planet scream? It's not a sound. It's a feeling, a vibration in your chest that starts when the sky turns red, and every satellite you trust goes silent. It's a rumble of tectonic plates snapping like twigs, the pressure wave that turns mountains to dust before the light even reaches your eyes. It's your mother grabbing your hand and running, though there's nowhere to run. That's what Earth sounded like when it died. They didn't come in ships. They didn't send a warning. They didn't even use their name. The Ziraxi burned Earth because it was there, because we were human, because to them we were loud, emotional, expanding too fast, a virus in a galaxy they believed was as alone to command. So they struck with divine silence. No hails, no ultimatums, just weapons beyond imagination. Rods of compressed matter fired from halfway across the system, traveling at fractions of light speed. Not nukes, not lasers, just gravity and math. The first rod hit the Pacific Ocean and turned it into a fireball 500 kilometers wide. The second slammed into Central Asia, vaporizing 8 nations in a heartbeat. The third, that one punch through the Earth's crust and set the mantle bleeding. The sky turned black, then green, then red. It was never a war. It was an execution. Billions died before anyone could say the word attack. Cities evaporated. Continents cracked. Tsunamis swallowed coast whole. Those who tried to escape into orbit found their lifters shredded by orbital debris. The same satellites they built to bring humanity forward now fell as burning wreckage, tearing through the upper atmosphere like vengeful angels. I was 13. I watched North America split open from a Martian telescope, screaming for a planet that could no longer scream back. And that's how it happened. Earth, our cradle, our home, was murdered in under 6 hours. Not conquered, not enslaved, just removed, like scraping a speck off your boot. And what did the galaxy do? Nothing. The Galactic Council, a self-proclaimed bastion of peace and order, issued a statement 17 days later. An unfortunate loss of planetary biodiversity. Not a word about the Ziraxi. Not one sanction. No military response. Just silence. They didn't see us as worth saving. We were a minor species. Too young. Too emotional. Too loud. A failed experiment in carbon and water. They thought we'd die out quietly. That the few thousand survivors scattered across Luna, Mars, Europa, and deep space outposts would fade into myth. They believed Earth's memory would be swallowed by time. They were wrong, because the moment Earth burned, something else ignited in us. Not hope, not rage, purpose. It started with fragments, messages shared between survivors, encrypted across decaying satellites and abandoned jump relays. A phrase began to appear in every language humans had ever spoken. We remember. They said it in English, in Mandarin, in Swahili, Urdu, Russian, Yoruba, Spanish, Hindi, even in dead tongues like Latin and Sumerian. It didn't matter. The meaning stayed the same. We remember. Mars built the first archive, a stone circle carved into the Valles Marineris. Every name of every Earthborn etched in titanium. Luna followed, burying their dead in orbital rings, each corpse drifting in silence, their bodies programmed to broadcast a single whisper. I was from Earth. No government remained, no unified council, but humanity did something strange, something beautiful. We evolved together. For the first time in our existence, we had no flags, no borders, only the fire of loss and the silence of space. And in that silence, we forged something terrible and divine, the Exodus fleets. You won't find them in any official registry. No transponders. No records. But they were real. 10 massive convoys, each the size of a small moon, hidden in the outer dark. They carried engineers, war scholars, geneticists, AI, and orphans. Always orphans. Children who saw Earth die and refused to forget. Each fleet had a single directive. Build, learn, wait. And so we did. We hollowed out asteroids and turned them into war foundries. We tamed the suns of forgotten systems to power forges the size of mountains. We designed weapons not for war, but for remembrance, precision tools of punishment. No mass destruction, no collateral damage, only scalpel strikes, aimed at the heart of civilizations. Meanwhile, the Zeraxi forgot us. They believed Earth's death was the end of the story. But it was only the prologue. I remember the last time I saw the image of Earth, not as it was, but as it became a swirling ember, cloaked in ash, its once blue oceans gone black. The moon's orbit had shifted from the impact. Debris still circled like a noose. That image was etched into every torch ship, every suit of armor, every AI core we built, and every child born after Earth swore an oath before it. They burned our world. We will return the flame. It took centuries. We waited. We watched. We learned everything about our executioners, how they lived, how they spoke, how they bred, how they hid their weaknesses behind layers of arrogance and psychic superiority. And when we were ready, we didn't send a message. We didn't broadcast a demand. We just launched. That's the end of the beginning. You ask why we fight. You ask why we burn their skies, break their moons, erase their names from the stars. Because they thought Earth was just a place. But Earth was never soil. It wasn't oxygen, gravity, or green trees. Earth was an idea. And now that idea burns in us. Forever. You ever wonder what happens when a species dies? But its anger lives on? That's what we became after Earth. Not ghosts. Not survivors. We were embers, buried under the weight of silence, scattered across stars that didn't want us. But embers don't forget. They wait. They smolder. And when the wind changes, they ignite. The galaxy assumed we were finished. A footnote. A cautionary tale of expansionist ambition. The Council filed away Earth's death under resource conflict. The Zeraxi never even named us in their records. But across Mars, Europa, Titan, the Kuiper Belt, and the black reaches beyond Pluto, something unholy was happening in the dark. Humanity wasn't rebuilding. We were transforming. On Mars, the red sands drank blood and gave back steel. We built underground forges powered by stolen antimatter and forged alloys the Zeraxi couldn't dream of, living metals that flex with thought, hulls that could regenerate mid-battle, and engines that warp space not to move through it, but to snap it like a whip. Europa's frozen oceans became hatcheries for something even stranger, warrior-born. Clone soldiers, yes, but not mindless drones. These were torchbearers, genetically forged from the DNA of Earth's last defenders, and enhanced by combat algorithms trained in billions of simulations. They were bred with one purpose: to remember Earth with every breath, and to avenge it with every drop of blood. On Titan, where methane rivers flowed like ink, human engineers created thought weapons. Sentient AIs grown inside synthetic minds, capable of simulating enemy civilizations down to the last heartbeat, and then extinguishing them before they drew their first. But none of it would have mattered without the Exodus fleets. 10 of them, colossal, silent, invisible to every scan of the galaxy knew. Each one a mobile civilization unto itself, housing tens of thousands of engineers, warriors, AI, and the last human elders, those who remember the smell of Earth's soil, the sound of rain, the taste of apple skin. They passed those memories down like sacred scripture. To be born in the fleets was not to live. It was to train. Every child learned history before language. Every adolescent was tested in vacuum survival, combat immersion, and tactical subversion. Every adult was a soldier, an architect, and a memory keeper. And over every cradle, in every fleet, the words were whispered like a prayer. We remember Earth. For 500 years, we said nothing. We broadcast no signals. We answered no hails. We let the galaxy believe we were shadows, lost, forgotten, extinct. And while they debated trade routes and planetary tariffs, we studied them. Every civilization that stood by as Earth burned, we mapped their infrastructure, cracked their languages, understood their weaknesses. The ones that had profited from our ashes, we embedded malware in their planetary archives and inserted genetic code into their food supply that would make them infertile in a century. But the Zeraxi, the ones who lit the match, we saved something special for them. It started with a prototype, Ashlance 01, a weapon too dangerous to test near any human colony. It used gravitational lensing to fire a tungsten rod through subspace at 0.98 light speed. The target? A Xeraxi moon station orbiting a gas giant 12,000 light-years from Sol. There was no explosion, no blinding light, just silence, until one of their listening posts caught the sudden, impossible absence of mass. Ashlance. 01 had bored a hole clean through the station, the planet, and even the ring system beyond. The impact caused no fire, no debris, just annihilation. The Council thought it was a natural phenomenon. The Xeraxi weren't so sure. And that's when the whispers began. Pirate ships reported ghost vessels, black holes shaped like broken swords, without IDs or transponders. Trading convoys found stations abandoned overnight, cargo left untouched, but their AI core scrubbed clean by some foreign presence. And on the outer rim of the Xeraxi Empire, 3 terraformers went offline. When drones arrived to investigate, they found the ground carved with one message, written in mirrored alien script. We remember. They tried to find us. They sent scouts, long-range probes, even bounty fleets. We let them search. We let them think they were close. But they never understood. We weren't hiding. We were waiting. And when the time came, we would not strike with ships and soldiers. We would strike with truth. So we built the Vault of Memory, a data construct stored inside a quantum crystal orbiting a dead star. Anyone who touched it would experience Earth's last moments in perfect, immersive detail. Not just see it, feel it. The panic, the fire, the screams of children with no sky left to run under, and then the silence. We launched the vault into Xeraxi space disguised as debris. One of their archival drones intercepted it and, curious, opened it. The experience shattered half their synaptic network. It triggered a psychic feedback that reverberated through their entire telepathic species. They finally felt what they had done. For one brief, blinding second, they understood, and that's when we hit them. Not a full invasion. Not genocide. No, that would be merciful. We started with their supply worlds. Systems they relied on but never defended. Burned from orbit by stealth drones the size of raindrops. Then their communications hubs, cut silently and perfectly across dozens of systems. And when they began to mobilize, they found their own ships unresponsive, AI corrupted, coordinates changed, weapons disarmed. Because while they watched the skies, we had already been inside their code for 2 centuries. One by one, their outposts blinked out. No one answered distress calls. No one returned fire. They weren't under attack. They were being erased. Just like Earth. And here's the thing. This was just the beginning. Because we hadn't come back for conquest. We came back for balance. To teach the galaxy a lesson written in plasma and silence. You can burn our planet. You can kill our people. But if you don't bury our memory, we will bury you. You don't hear the human fleet arrive. You feel it, like gravity itself just leaned in and whispered your name. There's no roaring engines, no war drums, no heroic anthems, just silence, and then a shadow that stretches across your sun. That's how the Xeraxi saw us again. Not as diplomats, not as stragglers, as a storm. After 3,000 years, we returned to galactic stage with ships like thunderheads, black, jagged, seamless things that looked more like ancient gods and machines. Our vessels didn't gleam. They absorbed light. Each bore the sigil of a fallen Earth city. New York, Lagos, Kyoto, Mumbai, Sao Paulo, Cairo, Moscow, all rendered in seared titanium along their hulls, like scars that had learned to speak. And at the center of them all was the memory of Earth, the flagship. No bridge, no windows, just a thought-reactive hull, powered by a gravity core reverse-engineered from a collapsed neutron star. Its commander was a girl who had once watched Earth die from a Martian schoolroom. She hadn't spoken since that day, but her eyes never stopped burning. The Xeraxi tried to talk. Now they wanted to negotiate. Now they offered peace. They sent diplomats riding star beasts laced with pheromones meant to manipulate emotion. They broadcast signals in every psychic spectrum. They called us brothers. We answered with silence. Not because we were incapable of mercy, but because they had taught us silence first. And now they would taste their own lesson. We called our campaign the Reckoning Spiral. Not just a counterattack, a design, a poetic, cold retribution, engineered to make them understand not just death, but memory. The first planet wasn't bombed. It was revealed. We dropped a drone swarm that painted the sky with the real-time memories of Earth's fall, visible from every hemisphere, every angle, from the poles to the equator. The citizens looked up and watched our children die again and again and again, as if their own sky had turned into the last seconds of a forgotten planet. Then we blacked out their stars, not just with warships, but with solar nets, massive light-absorbing fields that turned day into endless night. That's when the panic set in. The second planet was different. No visuals, just sound. We hijacked their comm systems and filled every frequency, every speaker, earworm implant, telepathic relay, with the ambient hum of Earth's final moments. The rush of oceans boiling, the thunder of impact, the voice of a child whispering, "Mom, it's getting hot." The noise didn't stop. They tried to shut it off. They couldn't. It burrowed into their networks like a virus. Some tore out their implants. Others crushed their transmitters. Some went mad from the silence that followed, convinced the sound was now inside their own thoughts. By the time we reached the third planet, we didn't need to do anything at all. The ruling caste had already fled. The citizens surrendered to shadows. Cities burned themselves to stop us from entering. They feared not our weapons, but our memory, because now Earth lived inside them too. They had become infected. That's what no one ever understood. You can't erase humanity with fire. You just spread the ashes wider. But it wasn't all terror. In some systems, we stopped. We paused the fleets over neutral planets. Not collaborators. Not allies. Just observers who had once looked away. We gave them a gift. The archive. Inside the complete history of Earth. Its languages, cultures, art, music. The hopes and dreams of 10 billion souls lost in one day. We didn't beg for pity. We didn't demand fealty. We just offered the truth. And when they asked, "Why share this now?" we answered, "So you never make our mistake. So no one burns alone again. Not all fire is vengeance. Some is warning. Some is light. But we weren't done, because the Ziraxi still breathed, still ruled, still pretended their crime was ancient history. So we went for the heart. The Ziraxi prime world, Zalakun. A jungle moon suspended in the gravity well of a trinorous star system, fortified with psychic defense grids, mirrored satellites, and weaponized thought fields that could melt most sapient minds. But we weren't most. We didn't fight them on the surface. We rewrote it. We hacked the moon's own eco-orbital protocols and triggered a self-blooming mutation in their plant life. The very jungles they used for camouflage grew out of control, rupturing cities, devouring strongholds, converting metal into photosynthetic carbon. They tried to fire on us. Their weapons misfired. Their satellites exploded from within, implants rigged centuries ago by human AI that had been sleeping, waiting. And when their leaders called out across the psychic net for reinforcements, they got only one answer. A child's voice. From Earth. Singing, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." That was the moment the galaxy changed. Not because we burned Zalakun, but because the Galactic Council, long content to turn away, watched. And for the first time, they didn't see a vengeful race of orphans. They saw what we had become. A civilization of scholars and soldiers, poets and engineers, rage and beauty, forged in fire and perfected in silence. We weren't coming for conquest. We were the consequence. You ask me now, was it justice? Was it revenge? I say this. Justice dies when memory fades. Revenge is what you feel when you want to hurt someone back. But what we did, it wasn't rage. It was remembrance weaponized. It was the answer to a question the galaxy had asked and thought would never echo back. And now they listen. They all listen. Because Earth no longer exists. But the voice of Earth? It falls from the stars. And it speaks fire. It began with something the Galactic Council had not done in over 1,000 years. They stood, not in ceremony, not in honor, but in fear. For the first time in a millennium, the Hall of Stars, where treaties were signed, empires born and wars ended, echoed with panic, not because of what we said, because of what we didn't. The humans had returned, and the galaxy's most ancient, arrogant powers were now prey to something they'd never prepared for. A civilization with nothing left to lose, and nothing more to prove. Delegates from 100 worlds gathered in emergency session. Holograms flickered. Tensions crackled. Everyone had a theory. They built a fleet beyond any known mass limit. They're using temporal compression. Time moves differently for them. They've merged with war AI. We're not fighting humans anymore. But none of it mattered, because none of them could answer the real question. How did we let this happen? The answer was easy. They ignored the fire when it was still smoke. For 3,000 years, the Council had ruled with the arrogance of survival. They thought peace was inevitable, that civilization naturally curved toward order. But Earth was the warning they refused to read. When the Ziraxi burned our homeworld, the Council called it a regional matter. When the last human embassies fell silent, they filed under non-cooperative species dissolution. And now they were choking on their own paperwork while the stars themselves burned red. It was the Volari who spoke first, those crystalline archivists who lived 1,000 years per thought. Their delegate, a being of living light, leaned forward and whispered. The humans were erased. Now they erase. It is balance. The growl, war boar and clawed, slammed their fists on the obsidian table. They are not gods. We should crush them now, before they grow stronger. But the Jendi, the empaths of the silver moons, trembled. They are not growing stronger. They already are. You just never look close enough. And so the silence returned. That kind of silence that arrives not from peace, but from knowing war is no longer optional. The Council sent envoys, not to the humans, to each other, whispers of alliances, secret votes for weapons long banned, doomsday protocols dusted off and reactivated, and above all, fear, not just of human fleets, but of human memory. The fact that we hadn't simply retaliated, but remembered everything: names, dates, coordinates, deals made in backrooms, and betrayals inked in fine print. The human archives didn't forget, and now they shared. Each new system we passed, we left behind not ashes, but truth, documents, audio logs, footage of every ambassador who had turned away as Earth burned. We didn't just target ships or cities. We shattered reputations. We burned legacies. And it worked. The first domino fell when the Jaran Unity, a mid-tier power once proud of its neutrality, defected, not out of loyalty, out of guilt. Their children had watched Earth's fall on archive holoviewers and asked, "Why didn't you help them?" The Unity couldn't answer. So they joined us. Others followed. Whispers turned to pledges. Apologies turned to offers. And for the first time in galactic history, the word spread like wildfire through black market channels, encrypted relay stations, and outlaw AI cores. The humans don't conquer. They reveal. They didn't come for territory. They came to make sure no one ever forgot Earth again. But the Ziraxi, they still believed in strength, still believed their empire unbreakable. So they struck back, hard, on the edge of the Horland Expanse. A Ziraxi fleet of 80 dreadnoughts ambushed one of our Exodus fleets, the Ghost of Manila. They expected a bloodbath. They got silence. At first, the dreadnoughts detected, and then every one of their ships ceased. Engines offline, weapons jammed, life support overloaded with music, Earth music, a jazz melody played on analog loops that made no sense to their sonic interpreters. Then our ships emerged, not from warp, from under them. We had been waiting in cloaked null space, inside their own ambush zone. We let them gather, then we made them disappear. No wreckage, no survivors. Just 80 silent pings, gone from the galaxy in a single, perfect breath. The Council panicked. Suddenly, the great superpowers of the galaxy weren't debating human retaliation. They were begging for human forgiveness. And we gave none. Not yet, because this wasn't over. There was still one final message to send, and it couldn't be whispered through war or wrapped in flame. It had to be felt in the bones of every starborn soul that had ever laughed at our extinction. So we called a summit, not a battle, a meeting. We invited every council species, every neutral world, every pirate lord and independent AI. Location? Earth. They hesitated. Earth was dead, uninhabitable, a cursed planet lost in radiation storms and tectonic fire. But when the delegates arrived, they saw what we had done. We hadn't restored Earth. We had preserved it, encased in a planetary memory shield, locked in time, perfectly frozen in its last moment. The clouds still boiling, the city still falling, the ocean still aflame. A globe of death suspended in stasis, a scar wrapped in glass. And orbiting it, us, our fleets, our story, our silence. We spoke just one sentence. We never forgot. Now neither will you. That day, the Council understood, not because of our weapons, but because we had become something they never imagined, not destroyers, witnesses. And witnesses live forever. Nothing. Then their screens blinked with a single line of Terran code. You don't win by burning the galaxy. You win when the galaxy begs you not to. And that's exactly where we stood. Above Earth, still smoldering in crystalline stasis, frozen in the moment of death. Around us, the great fleets of the once untouchable Galactic Council hovered, silent as tombstones. Their delegates sat in orbiting observation chambers, every eye fixed on the one species they had once declared culturally extinguished. We didn't roar. We didn't threaten. We did nothing. And still, the stars held their breath, because now the humans had a choice. Every council race had finally arrived, circling Earth like mourners who had shown up late to a funeral. Their ships formed rings of silence, each afraid to speak first. 1,000 years of treaties, wars, and backdoor betrayals, all meaningless now. We had no emperor, no queen, no central voice. We didn't build a throne. We built a tribunal, made of survivors, orphans, archivists, scientists, and warriors. No one wore a crown. We wore ashes. And when we stepped forward to address the galaxy, after 3,000 years of silence, our voice wasn't a scream. It was a mirror. We showed them everything. The burning of Earth, the screams of cities drowned in plasma fire, the last broadcast of children saying goodbye. But then we went further. We showed them what came next, how we survived under Martian ice, how we hollowed out moons, bred solar-forged AI, and taught machines to remember laughter, how we raised new children who spoke the languages of their ancestors by reading melted books and listening to gravity wave lullabies. We showed them how we didn't rebuild an empire. We resurrected a soul, and in doing so, became something far more terrifying than conquerors. We became impossible. Then we gave them the choice. We have every reason to wipe you out, but we won't, not because you deserve mercy, but because we refuse to become you. Silence. You could feel it press against the hulls of their ships. The Zeraxi were the only ones who dared speak. Their leader, Cortel the Ashmaker, transmitted a private message, encrypted, desperate. Name your price. Technology? Territory? Servants. We replied by broadcasting that message publicly, to everyone. Then we said, this is what they offered us instead of Earth. The reaction rippled like a gravitational quake. Species who had once pledged loyalty to the Zeraxi began severing ties in real time. Fleets shifted formation. Alliances collapsed. And still we did not fire. Not a single shot. We did something far worse. We left, not in retreat, in command. We pulled back our fleets from the core worlds, not because we feared reprisal, but because we had made our point. Humanity did not return to rule the galaxy. We returned to change it. And change it we did. We established the Earth Accord, a universal pact forbidding planetary annihilation in any form. Not a suggestion. A vow. Any species who violated it would face the reckoning spiral. Not war, but exposure. Total transparency. We didn't need to invade your world. We'd simply show your people what you'd done. Let them burn you from within. Fear became obsolete. Memory became law. Some worlds resisted. Outliers. Fanatics. They struck a human outpost, sabotaged relay buoys, tried to poison the archives. They expected reprisal. We gave them something else. Forgiveness. Public. Unavoidable. We released their names, told the galaxy what they tried to do, then offered them aid. and that shattered more power than any weapon. Their own populations turned against them, ashamed to be the villains in a story the galaxy now knew by heart. We didn't have to raise a fleet. We only had to raise a mirror. But let's not lie. There were votes for fire. There were humans who wanted blood, who saw mercy as weakness. Some even broke away, forming rogue fleets that scorched the edges of forgotten empires. We pursued them, hunted them, because we would not let vengeance define us. We had seen what fire could do, and we chose to become something stronger than flame. Over the next 100 years, Earth's orbit became a sanctuary, not a grave, a place where survivors from any world could visit, bear witness, and remember what hatred looked like when it finally had its way. There was no ticket, no speech, just a window into a planet caught in its last breath. No one ever left unchanged. Even the coldest empires sent delegates who returned with eyes a little wetter, because Earth had become the galaxy's most powerful weapon, a wound that would never close and should never heal. So now, when they ask what humanity is, we tell them we are the descendants of fire, the children of a silence you once mistook for death, the architects of memory, and the guardians of what remains. We could have ended you. We didn't, because we are not what you made us. We are what we chose to become. So remember this. When your children look up and see our ships, quiet, watching, waiting, not as invaders, but as witnesses, know that they will never fear us. They will learn from us. And the fire, it still lives, not in weapons, not in wars, but in every archive, every law, every world that dares to say, never again, because we carry Earth with us, not as a memory, but as a promise.